Hey everyone, my name is Jake. This is Marco, my business partner, and we're the two owners of No Till Kings.
Jake and I met actually in the 5th grade. We've been friends all throughout middle school and high school through skateboarding. That's what really bonded us, skateboarding. He skated vert, I skated street. For those of you that don't know, like vert is the ramps, and then street is skating downstairs and handrails, stuff like that. We just became friends through skateboarding. We went to the skate parks together, and the rest is just kind of history.
It's kind of how it all started, and then yeah, we were, just friends through skateboarding, always hitting different parks all around San Diego, anywhere we could go ride. After that, moving through high school beyond, we both started growing, and we've made it here.
I started growing when I was like 18 years old. Just growing at my parents' house. Jake was actually the one that got me into it. And once I moved up to Santa Barbara to go to community college up there, that was the first time that I actually grew the no-till style, which I grew on my balcony in like a 2x4 little greenhouse tent.
Yeah, I started growing when I was 17. I got my medical card actually. I just knew I wanted to grow plants. Thankfully, I had been working a job since I was 14 years old, so my parents knew I was super hardworking, and I told them I was gonna go smoke weed and try to get a medical card. They were cool with it because I was very responsible. I started dabbling with a few plants in my parents' yard, and it was just failure after failure after failure. Every plant somehow or another died until I finally ended up getting clones from a dispensary. And I ended up flowering them over the summer, and I harvested that flower. And I was just farming in soil using just like nutrients that you can mix with water. It's been a long, long road of trial and error to kind of figure out how this plant grows. We really started to kind of look into living soil and farming no-till. Basically, right after my first harvest is when we really started looking into it super hard, because it was just an amazing idea that you could grow in this soil and not have to throw it out and be able to keep reusing it. And it seemed unreal at the time, but we've been doing it now for quite a while. It comes with its challenges, absolutely, just like any farming style does. But it's truly amazing that we're able to keep farming in the same body of soil and not have to throw it out cycle after cycle, which is how most groups are farming these days, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Jake hit me up back in the day. This guy, Mountain Organics, that's how he goes by on Instagram. And he was just putting out a bunch of knowledge about the no-till game, and Jake already had his plants at the time. He was growing with Subcool's super soil mixture. He was like, yo, check this guy Mountain Organics out. I had already finished my plants that I had at my parents' house, and I was getting ready to move up to Santa Barbara, so I didn't have a grow at the time. Those plants came out like ass, by the way. There was caterpillars eating all my buds. It was so bad. When I was drying the plants, like caterpillars were just falling out of the closet.
It was bad.
Jake was disgusted by it.
Yeah.
But it was like my first grow, my first successful harvest. So I smoked it, and Jake almost threw up.
I did not smoke that.
Yeah, a lot of caterpillar shit in that weed. When I was getting ready to move up to Santa Barbara, I was doing just a bunch of research on no-till and the style of farming that Mountain Organics was doing, and I was just fascinated. Jake was fascinated, but like I said, he had his plants at the time. So when I got up to Santa Barbara, I had a 10-gallon no-till pot set up in this little 2x4 greenhouse out on my balcony that I got off Amazon, and I just started growing in no-till living soil, and I just fell in love. Ever since that first harvest of no-till, I never looked back. It's just absolutely the way to grow. It's cleaner, it's more natural, it's sustainable, it's more economic, and it tastes better and it smells better. I mean, it's just night and day, 100%.
For me, I saw this emerging market of legal cannabis coming at some point. When I was in high school, I imagined that eventually cannabis will become legal in California, not just on the Prop 215 side, but on like a recreational side. And one of the things that drew me to farming cannabis was just that I love smoking weed. And when you want to smoke a lot of weed, it's very expensive to do that unless you want to grow it yourself. If you want top quality flower and you want to roll up, you know, a lot of joints all the time, you need a lot of flower to do that. I wanted to cultivate my own cannabis, and that's kind of what drew me to that. And what I learned as I was drawn towards cultivating cannabis is that this is one of the hardest things that you can attempt to do. And I think that all cannabis farmers understand how difficult it is to do what we do, especially on a commercial scale in the licensed market, to get everything lab tested and to get it out in a finished product. It's one of the hardest things that you can do in any industry, just with how much regulation that we're up against. And I think all of that combined, if we can conquer that and have a successful company cultivating one of the hardest crops to cultivate with the most stringent regulation, then there's no limit to what we can do in terms of business in general. And so I think by taking a task as difficult as cannabis cultivation and being able to be successful at it, or unsuccessful, it molds you into a person that is able to really tackle anything.
Yeah, shout out to everyone in the California cannabis game. I mean, if you're a cultivator, you know how hard it is. Just in general, it's hard to cultivate cannabis. Now adding in all that red tape, all that licensing, it's so fucking hard. And it's easy to look at our product on the shelves and be like, these guys are killing it, they're living good, and we stress and work so fucking hard, day and night, because we know the second someone has a bad eighth or a bad pre-roll from our product, they're never gonna buy it again. And they're gonna tell all their friends. Bad news spreads way faster than good news. And so we always have to work so hard to make sure that the customers are getting a quality product. And it's so easy to like look at our Instagram or look at our YouTube or whatever and be like, oh, these guys, you know, they have it easy, they're crushing it. But we work so fucking hard. And that's just the way it is. Like, we're super blessed to be here. I think a lot of people think they could do this when they've never even tried to grow more than 2 lights or something like that, and it's just not the case. Jake and I, we've both grown under 1 light, 2 lights. We grew in the Prop 215 era, we've grown outside, greenhouse, indoor. We've done it all, and this is by far the most challenging way to grow and time to grow in this licensed market is just crazy with the regulations and the taxes and the dispensaries and all the logistical hoops that we have to jump through. It goes far beyond just growing cannabis.
And I think too, something that draws you back as a cannabis cultivator is once you are able to successfully flower your first plant and realize, hey, I can grow this plant to a consumable level where, hey, I've dried it, I've trimmed it, it's ready to smoke. Once you've actually proven to yourself that you can do that, and you've actually made it through, and after failure, that's kind of what brings all of us cannabis cultivators back to the garden, is knowing that, hey, we've done it, we went through that hard journey, we came out the other side and we had a product that was able to be sold or able to be smoked, whatever it is. After failure, to come out and have a successful harvest, whether it's 1 plant or 100 plants, being able to get through those hard times of trying to harvest your first plant, that's what kind of brings us all back, knowing that, hey, we've done it before, we can do it again. It's just a challenging plant to grow. And with every run, anything can happen. You know, if you're indoor, the lights can shut off, the dehues, the air conditioning. You can have any number of problems that you have to kind of push through in order to have a successful crop. And I think just being able to get through that and prove to yourself that you can successfully harvest a plant, that's kind of what brings all of us cultivators back to the garden to try it again.
I think a level of respect is owed for anyone doing this, especially in the licensed market. I mean, we respect all types of growing, even if you're growing hydroponics. Yeah, we rather grow in living soil. We think that's the best way to grow, but doesn't mean I'm gonna shit on your hydro grow. Like, it's hard to grow weed. It's a really challenging thing to do. And I think with all this money involved and all this licensing. It's just really drawn people apart. Everyone wants to tear each other down. And it's like, for what? Like, this plant is meant to be enjoyed, pass a joint around, like, have a good time. Like, we're here because we love weed. Like, we just want to have a good time with our friends, smoke some weed, and just go to events and dab it up with people, exchange knowledge. We respect everyone that grows. Everyone that's been in this industry, like, shout out if you're in the California market. It's so fucking hard.
A lot of people have said it and come to the realization that anybody that's operating in California in the legal market and that is making it and continuing to strive to succeed is gonna be here to stay. It's the toughest market. It's the top tier of cannabis in the entire world operating in the California market. You know, we're in the ring, we go toe to toe with the best brands in the world. And we're still standing, we're trying to make it so that, you know, we can be here for the long haul. It kind of mimics the whole life cycle of the plant. It's a tough plant to farm when you're trying to go for elite quality. It's just tough to do that. In addition, the whole industry itself with the regulation, every single facet is just, it's just really tough, but you know, we're getting through it and we're hoping that we're around and that, you know, we're lucky enough to be successful.
So we started growing together in 2015. He was doing his thing down in San Diego. I was doing my thing up in Santa Barbara while I was going to school up there. I was doing my little greenhouse thing on my balcony, and we linked up. Jake was working at a dispensary down in San Diego, and he was helping out at the grow too, also while having plants at his house. And he was like, yo, this is a great opportunity to get in the industry. It's gonna be legal, you know, super soon. You should hop in it now. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I started driving down from Santa Barbara to San Diego. For that same shop, we started cultivating outdoors on a piece of land in 2016. In the 215 era, I was commuting back and forth from Santa Barbara every week. Jake was holding down the fort there, and I was just commuting, and it got way too much, and so I just dropped out of school, and we started cultivating full-time. I started cultivating full-time. Jake was already in the industry full-time, but I would say 2016 is when I got into the industry full-time.
Tilling the soil is when you are agitating the soil mechanically, either on a large scale commercial agriculture. They would be using tractors with large disc blades on a big tractor. The tractor would be towing a tilling machine basically, and it would end up cutting through the soil. Some cut differently, some are like purposefully cutting big ridges to fold over like wet soil, and other ones are just cutting deep into the soil to break up any of the previous crop. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to not till the soil so that all of that nice top layer stays intact and that all of the worm castings, the organic matter, is still in the soil. And indoors especially too, we don't have the situation outside where if you are agitating the soil, the wind is gonna potentially blow all that top layer off of the soil, and that's when we've had the big dust bowl situation in the United States. And so by not tilling the soil and by having a lot of microbiology in that topsoil, there's a lot of worm castings and microorganisms that really help keep everything together. When you till it with large disc blades, you're going to be tearing up all of that microbiology. And so on large scale agriculture, it's very bad for the soil to be continually tilling it with like large mechanical agitators.
Yeah, most of the microbiology lives in the top 3 inches of the soil. So when you're disturbing all of that, none of the organic matter that's laid on top has time to repair itself or decompose. So it's all just getting stripped and turned into bare dirt. And then on, large farms, they're using synthetic fertilizers and pesticides to pump the bare dirt because there's no nutrients because it's all stripped out from tilling. They're just pumping it full of fertilizers, pumping it full of pesticides, and all of that is getting into our foods and into our riverbeds as well. Tilling goes far beyond cannabis on a large scale. It's absolutely how food should be grown. If you think about it, also, dirt does not absorb water. When you grow in living soil, the water retention is far times greater than when you till the soil. And so when it rains, when there's a big rain and all that rain hits the barren dirt, it just floods off into the nearest by stream or storm drain. And then you have all those pesticides and all those chemical fertilizers going directly into the river or into a storm drain that goes out into the ocean.
So our biggest thing was trying to farm in living soil, and in cannabis, the word no-till is synonymous with farming in living soil. But in terms of why we are farming that way and why we're farming in living soil is that we truly do care about trying to be more sustainable, trying to have less of a carbon footprint. Even though we know we're using electricity, we're farming indoors, we have to use a lot of resources to do this. But if we're able to not throw out our soil and we're able to build richer soil by farming this way, like why wouldn't we do it? And it is more challenging at times. There are more constraints that living soil can apply to your facility. But the main reason that we chose it is because it differentiates us from everyone else that's farming, and it really is better for the environment to farm everything in living soil, not just cannabis.
And it's a way cleaner smoke. I mean, the high, it's night and day. When I first grew no-till back in Santa Barbara, the high, I had a side-by-side. I had, just a regular plant, some regular soil blend, and then I had another plant in like no-till pot. And the no-till plant was absolutely 100% better. It smoked better. It was clearer on my lungs, not as much coughing. The high was clearer. Everything was just smoother. The all-around experience, the terpene profile was absolutely better. And I just fell in love with the way that it's so symbiotic, the plant and the nature.
Well, the whole process to get our license, to find a suitable location, was extremely challenging. Like every single part of the way was difficult. Why don't we go through the journey? Let's say you want to start a licensed cannabis business. Well, there's lots of things that you'll need, and one of them is you'll need a suitable location to operate in. And for us, we're up in Long Beach, we've settled on Long Beach. I looked all over the state of California, and what it really comes down to is the local city that you are operating in or that you want to operate in, that local city has to be willing to grant you a license. And the way that a city is willing to do that is either they already have an ordinance enacted so that they are issuing licenses for whatever it is that you want to do. And if they are doing that, if a city is issuing licenses, do they have a cap on the number of licenses? Is it unlimited? What's the situation? And so some cities all throughout California outright have no ordinance. They just ban it all completely. And so a city has the option to do that, and a lot of them have done that. And then the other cities that have ordinances, you have to go through the city hall and the whole licensing process. You have to go to the city, you have to tell them what you're trying to do, you have to apply for permits, you have to have a suitable location in their zone in that city where they're granting the green zone licenses. And so once you kind of figure all that out, then you have to establish, can we find a building in that location to try to get licensed. And so we're up in Long Beach, we, after a whole year of looking around, we settled on Long Beach and we found a building. And this was back in 2017. This was really like in prime time when everyone was trying to get in. It was a year after vote was legalized to legalize cannabis recreationally in California. And so at that time, everything was really new. Like at that time, adult use hadn't even been legalized in Long Beach yet. It was just medicinal at the time. It was not till about 2018 that they licensed the adult use. And so we had to find a building in the zone in a city that is issuing licenses. And then once you get your building, then you have to establish your layout. You have to get a building permit. You have to have an architect or engineers help you formulate plans that the city will approve. And everything has to be, checked off to a T. Like I personally went to every plan check meeting with the city to get our building permit approved. And at that time, there was just a lot of unknowns. Nobody knew anything about cannabis. Everything was brand new. It was a major challenge. And at that time, you don't know if you're even gonna get your license. This is all just things you have to do in order for them to consider you for the license. Now, what we've learned is that if you do everything right and you don't have any bad criminal history that's current, you will get your license. It's just a waiting game and it takes months and months, sometimes a year or more. But you will eventually get it. It's just you have to spend all this money and put all this time and energy into creating this infrastructure so that you will hopefully get the license. Because they will not issue you a license to just like an empty building. You gotta build it out, you gotta have the plans, the state has to look through all your plans, the state has to know that the city that you're in issued you a license, or else the state won't issue you one either. And so...
We didn't know. Like, we straight up didn't know. We were like, we're putting all this money into building out this facility. They may not issue us a license. Like, we have to think back then,
yeah,
they weren't being straight up with us. We were like, so we're gonna spend all this money to build this place out. We don't even know if we're gonna be granted a license. Like, that shit was gnarly. I remember us stressing over that.
Exactly. Thankfully, I mean, we did get the license. It was super tough. We've learned a lot about the process to get there, but once we get the city situation kind of handled and we have to build out this facility, throughout the build out time we have to also do our state license, because we've got our city licenses and then our state license, and it's the state license that you need in order to actually operate in the California market, but you can't get a state license unless the city that you're in allows what you're trying to do. For us, it's just been a long grind, just learning, the ropes of the industry, and nobody knows, like nobody's a true expert. Even the lawyers that say they're experts, like they've helped a couple people get licenses and get, facilities up and running, but they're not doing it every day. They know the theory behind it all. And same thing with the realtors and everybody that's trying to help you spend money or get a building or do something. None of them really understand like how difficult it is to actually get your license and then let alone operate that license.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
Like now they may have a little bit more experience, but back then they didn't know anything. I mean, we didn't have money for lawyers. Jake pretty much deep dove into everything and single-handedly pulled our licenses for us. We had gone back and forth with a lawyer for a little bit. It was costing us way too much money. Jake was like, fuck this, like I can do this. Let's save the money for the build out. And here we are.
Got the license.
Our team's really small. We only have 8 full-time employees and then Jake and myself. So Jake and I are the only 2 owners. We don't have big money backing us. We've put everything we have into this. We have an amazing team. The 8 people that we do have, we wouldn't be able to do it without them. We're so thankful and blessed with our team. They crush it. But when people ask like, oh, who's your sales rep, or who's your head of harvest, or who's your, up until recently, it was Jake and I that was doing everything. We finally got head of harvest manager, Danielle. Yeah. She's killing it. David and Noah on our garden team. Just everyone, really. I mean, we have such a small team, and we're so lucky to have such an awesome team that loves cannabis just like we do. From growing the plants to stickering the labels on all of the 1/8 jars and the pre-rolls, we do it all. We don't do any co-packing. We don't, contract out trimming. Everything's done in-house. It's becoming more, well-known now, but there's a lot of brands out there that people like that all they are is a brand. They don't actually cultivate the product that they're making, or they don't manufacture the product that they're selling, where they just have someone else do it, they put their brand on it, and then they sell it. So everything that we put out under No Till Kings is our product. We cultivate it, we stand behind it, and if it's in our jar, you can believe it's gonna be fire. From pheno hunting, all the genetics from seed, growing them up, cloning them out, pheno hunting them, seeing which strains are good, which aren't, deciding that, smoke testing them, and then rerunning it again to put it into a production line. We handle all our own sales, we handle all our own phenos, all our own genetics, all our own plants. We grow everything ourselves. Anything that you see that goes into our jars, we've done everything. When you look at our products at No Till Kings, you can be assured that everything is done here at our facility. To getting it to your table to roll it up and smoke it or put it in a bong, however you want to enjoy our product.
every single thing is done with love, by hand, by our team, and thoughtfully so, in a way that really nobody else is doing right now.
For those that know the lingo, our Gelato 41, our Jealousy, and our SFE times Animal Mints, those are the only strains that we got as clones from Seed Junkie Genetics. Everything else that you see, like our Cookies and Cream, our White Widow, our Jack the Ripper, our Mimosa, all of those are gonna be hunted from seed by us and pheno hunted by us. So that's a really big thing too, is pheno hunting your own genetics, not just growing what everyone else has on the market.
The current market has many challenges, good and bad. We're seeing many brands disappear that otherwise you would think would have stayed around. It's a huge changing landscape. You know, 5 years ago, everybody wanted to get into the California market, and a lot of people did. A lot of people, a lot of groups spent so much money building massive facilities. And if you look at those facilities today, like a fraction of them are still operating. And I think that just shows how difficult it is to operate in California. It really just takes the right product, the right infrastructure, the right timing, and the understanding of what the consumer wants, which I think a lot of these large groups have forgotten about because they're just trying to sell a product that maybe nobody wants.
They're just focused on margins. Even if you have a good product like we do and we go to these dispensaries and show it to them, they don't even consider us because they don't even try the product. They just look at the ticket price and they're like, oh, nah. And that's so many shops. There are a lot of good shops out there, and there are a lot of shops that implement, you know, buyers that really do know about cannabis and really do care, and those are the shops we're in. But it's just getting really, really cutthroat. I think it's just getting really hard out there, and it's only gonna get harder. Only the real will survive. I mean, if you're just in it to make some money, you're gonna get cut, because it's getting really gnarly. We're seeing brands drop left and right, brands that we thought would never get out of the game, and they just didn't renew their license, you know, it just kind of faded away, and everyone's like, what happened to them? The taxes and the regulation and the red tape is so fucking much, it's insane.
It's a super tough market, and we're in like a weird time in the cannabis industry because we're legal on a state level. A lot of states are legal on a state level now. There's still no interstate commerce. We may be, you know, 2 years away, we may be 20 years away from that, from being able to sell between states, whether that's by federal legalization or by some interstate thing that allows legal states to sell to one another. A lot of the problems in California were created by large groups operating in California. A lot of large groups cultivated way too much product, and they ended up driving their own wholesale price down. It's just counterintuitive how a lot of these groups have operated, and that's why half of them went out of business, is like half of them put themselves out of business.
Well, they operated on a false promise, right? They operated on spending so much capital on advertising, and then people go to smoke their weed and it's trash. And then they go out of business. Whereas we spend $0 on marketing, and I wouldn't say zero, but very few dollars on marketing, and we just have a good product, and it's all about that organic growth, and that's why we're so small, and it takes years and years and years, but we don't even want to expand. We want to be where we are so we can focus on quality over quantity 100% of the time. Jake and I are in it for the long run. We're here to stay, and you know, it may seem like we're complaining, or I'm complaining a lot in this interview, but we are so stoked to be here, and we just got to play by the rules and play by the game now. Even if it does suck, we got to put our heads down and just keep on keeping on, and you know, that's what we're doing. It's like, yeah, we can complain, but we're just, you know, pissing into the wind.
So if you are just trying to learn how to grow or cultivate a plant, and you are looking to get into the legal market, there's many things that you will need to consider. So if you're trying to learn how to grow, the first thing you need to do is actually try to grow a plant. Whether it's put a plant outside in the sun, whether you go to your local dispensary and you buy a clone, That's the easiest way to do it, is to go buy a clone, get some soil, put it outside and see what happens. You know, give it water, maybe you get a little bit of nutrients, or you just add some more soil onto it. But the best way is to start growing a plant and to see what happens. And then that will show you how difficult it is and what you'll need to kind of learn. But for anyone that's never grown, they just need to try to grow a plant, and then they grow 2 plants and then 3 plants, up to 6 plants, which is the legal limit when you don't have a license. That's how you start when you want to cultivate cannabis, is you just have to start small. You start with 1 plant and you work your way up. Now, for anybody that wants to get into the legal market on anything other than the cultivation side, whether it's manufacturing or whether it's retail, if it's retail, you may want to go work a bud tending job. You may want to learn the ins and outs of what does a retail shop do? Like, what's their main focus of how they spend their time and their money? If you want to learn how to manufacture, you may have to go work at a licensed lab. If it's volatile manufacturing, you definitely want to try to learn at a licensed lab so that you don't blow up or set yourself on fire. If you're trying to make water hash, you can learn that stuff at home on your own on a small scale. But anytime you're trying to get into the legal market, you should have an idea of what are you trying to do? Are you capable of doing that? And if you're not, then you have to start learning that process or that specific segment of the industry. With cultivation specifically, it's really that you just gotta learn how to grow plants, and then you gotta become successful at it to be able to establish a program to farm either indoors or outdoors on a commercial scale. And so I really think getting into the industry, it takes steps. You gotta either, you know, be confident in yourself and try to deep dive into it and go get a license. And if you have a plan and you want to create a brand, it can be done. It's just super tough.
I think first and foremost, the #1 advice I could give for anyone that wants to join in the legal cannabis game, you have to love cannabis. If you don't fucking love this plant, you will fail. Like, you have to love it so much that you're willing to do this and nothing else, because that's what it takes in this industry if you don't have millions of dollars backing you. Plain and simple.
Absolutely. It takes just so much persistence and failure, like failure after failure. Even when you get licensed and you have a facility that's legit, you're still gonna have hard times. Even more so when it's legit, because you've got all the stringent regulations, you've got all the testing regulations, all of the bottleneck to get it from our specific cultivation license into a packaged product, into our distributor's license, and then from there to get it to the retailer, which is a separate license as well. And so everything has to move through this specific chain of custody. You really got to be passionate about what you're doing, especially if you're the cultivator who's trying to establish their own brand. There's a lot of groups that cultivate flower that don't actually have their own brand, and they sell everything to a white label or someone that's going to have a brand that's just the face of it, where they're buying bulk product, they're packaging it, and they're the face to the end consumer.
Like the coffee industry.
Exactly. Thank God I love smoking weed so much, so.
Hell yeah. So what sets our product apart from others is absolutely the style of cultivation that we do. That's what sets us apart. Sure, the genetics that we grow and we pheno hunted, that also sets us apart, but really we're one of the few brands that grow indoors in living soil. Another thing that sets us apart is all of the plastics that we use for our joint tubes and our lids are all reclaimed ocean plastics. You know, we are really trying to be a lot more sustainable, not only with the style that we grow, but also in our packaging as well. We really do care, and we really want to show that we do care. I'm a huge surfer, skater, you know, so plastics in the ocean is a huge no-go for me. Any way that we as a company can do better, we absolutely want to do better. And shout out to everyone growing and living soil. You know, I'll have people come to me at the dispensary and they're like, oh, did you see this new brand like pop online, or this old brand, you know, that you haven't heard of, maybe that's growing and living soil, like you think they're competition? I'm like, no, dude, I think everyone should be growing this way. I absolutely love when people grow in living soil. I'm not worried about the competition at all. There's enough room for all of us, you know, and I really, really hope that everyone does transition into growing and living soil. Like we said before, even on a large scale food style, I think it should all be grown in living soil?
I would say if I had to put like one sentence on what differentiates us is that we at No Till Kings, we cultivate elite quality flower indoor in living soil. And that is something rare in the market. And we're competing in California, which is the top echelon of cannabis in the entire world. We are truly trying to produce elite quality flower. And we know better than anybody that what that takes is that takes constant effort to produce seriously high quality flower. And if you don't put that effort in every single round, it will fall off. Anybody can fall off. We can fall off if we don't put in the effort. And so, we are committed to producing elite quality flower. And if it's in a No Till Kings jar, you can bet it will be fire.
Yeah, if it's in a No Till Kings jar and you don't like it, then you just don't like the terp profile. I think Nick from same exact thing with No Till Kings eighth or pre-roll. If you don't like it, just means the terps aren't for you. So you can try another flavor. Also too, major shout out to everyone that purchases our products, purchases our clothing, goes to the dispensary and spends the money on our product. We wouldn't be here without you following our journey, commenting on our posts, being involved with what we're doing. We really wouldn't be here without you. We thank you all so much, even for tuning into this video. Like I said, supporting us at the stores. If you're not in California, watching our videos or buying our merch, huge thank you for supporting us. And like I said, if it wasn't for you spending your dollars on us, we wouldn't be here, and the market would just be, filled with more and bunk shit.
Yep. Is that a shot at?
Fuck yeah, I'm taking a shot.
That's good. All right. At No Till Kings, we truly do try to get the dispensary's price to be as fair as possible. Each store can set a different price. Some stores put it at a phenomenal price. Mm-hmm. Others are making much more on it. And so what we've learned is that we're just a really small company. It's very challenging for us to have any leverage over the retail shop. And so, we really do try to work with good retail partners, and we have a lot of them, and we're very grateful to all the ones that we're working with. But every individual store sets really their own price. And so what we've learned is that some price it really well, others have it a lot higher in price, and we truthfully just can't control that. Just know that, we really do try to work with the store so that they can put it at the best possible price. So that you as the consumer is able to get a fair price for a premium quality product.
We do a lot of PADs, patient appreciation days, BOGOs, buy one, get one, or buy two, get one. You'll see us at the shop sometimes doing that to try to hype you all up and give back for supporting us. We always want to give back to all of you because you put us here. And so anytime we can give back, we'd love to do that.
Well, currently, the reason that we are unable to sell cannabis products across any other state is that each state has their own licensing structure. You're only allowed to sell in the state that you're operating in. And it's kind of a crazy thing if you think about it, because cannabis is an agricultural commodity. When you look at it, when you look at the sales of cannabis compared to other agricultural commodities, we are high up there. And no other agricultural commodity is required to be sold in the region that it's cultivated in. Every other commodity is cultivated for export, because you could never imagine that one particular region could consume all of the crop that region grows. It never would happen unless it's like a very niche product. But anything, corn, grapes to make wine, fruit, everything is grown because it's going to be exported to other countries that may not be cultivating that product, or other states or other areas. And so cannabis is unique in that it's the only large agricultural commodity where you have to sell everything that you cultivate in the region that you cultivate it in. It's very tough on the market. That's kind of what has created this effect of a collapsing market where there's so much product that gets cultivated and the entire state of California can't even consume that much product. It's not federally legal, so that's why you can't sell it from state to state. And that's why all these large groups that are trying to operate in multiple states, they have to have physical infrastructure in each state that they're trying to operate in. And it is a crazy thing when you think about that. Really no other agricultural commodity is only sold in the region that it's cultivated in. But hopefully that will change. It becomes either federally legal or we're just able to sell interstate and internationally. It would be a huge market as well. We're at just the very beginning of cannabis legalization. It may take 50 years or more to become normalized internationally. It will happen, it's just a matter of time.
Contrary to belief, people in the cannabis industry are not making millions of dollars, plain and simple. It's gone really downhill really fast. A lot of companies are going out of business, and we by no means are making millions of dollars. We are getting by, and we're getting by because of all of you, and we're super blessed to still be in this industry, and we're super blessed that you support us all. But we are absolutely not making millions of dollars like these headlines are telling you that we are. Yes, our eighths are at a high ticket price, but we are not getting that full dollar amount, not even close. We wholesale it, distribution takes a percent, the retailer takes a percent, and then the taxes are extraordinarily high. We are absolutely not making what someone may believe we are.
Exactly. A lot of people, especially 5-6 years ago, everyone looked at the cannabis industry and just thought it was made of money and that everything was going to be making millions of dollars immediately and that you build a room and it's just producing millions of dollars, and that is just absolutely not the case. And I think it's because the whole idea of what cannabis was based on black market sales before legalization, and there was a lot of money being made in the black market, and there still is, because there's no taxes, there's no legal infrastructure, there's no permit. None of the normal costs associated with like running a legal business, and the prices before legalization were much higher. The market has plummeted because large legal cannabis companies oversupplied the market by 2 or 3 times as much. Like California itself has, in the last couple years, has produced over 3 times as much flower has been produced in the legal market than has been sold in the legal market. And so, that begs the question, where does everything go? I don't have the answer to that question, but it goes somewhere. And so all of this product that has been oversupplied is directly crashing the market for these groups that are oversupplying it. And so it's a very strange time to be in the industry. Nobody's making a killing right now, and it's really about seeing who can make it the next 5 years. And a lot of the large groups know that, and some of them are ready to be losing money for 5 to 10 years to see who's there at the end. Hopefully we're gonna be right there with them. I always admired, guys like Josh D growing up, DNA genetics, seeing their greenhouse that they put up, I think in like 2014 maybe. That was pretty dope. That was like, wow, like people are doing big things in California now. I went to the Cannabis Cups and I met Sub Cool. I was fortunate enough to do that. Our Jack the Ripper pheno that we have actually are seeds that I bought from Sub Cool, and he was a big part of the old time of the industry. There's a whole list of guys all up in NorCal and Humboldt and Mendo and Steve D'Angelo and Harborside. That's on a whole nother side of the industry.
Yeah, I looked up to him a lot.
Yeah, him, and then down here we got Jungle Boys. They're a force to be reckoned with. Major respect, just to them and TLC and their shop and everybody in LA. There's a lot of legacy growers all throughout California. We grew up smoking their shit, admiring their stuff, seeing them at Cannabis Cups.
Our heart goes out also to all the small farms. You hear about Humboldt County a lot in Northern California that were legacy growers, generations and generations of farmers, their kids, they grew up cultivating cannabis and really brought this industry to where it is today. And they weren't able to go legal because the ticket price was so high. And that absolutely should not be the case. And we understand if they, want to stay under the radar, not legal, because the system has absolutely fucked the small farmers, and it's absolutely unacceptable. I hope that we can get their respect too on this legal side, and they see that we're just trying to push the envelope for cannabis even further. But definitely huge shout out to all those growers and people doing it far before cannabis was cool. And our heart really goes out to those farms that weren't able to make it legal. We're able to do what we do because you all paved the way.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many good cannabis farms that have not been able to participate in the legal market, and a lot of it comes down to just bad policy. The cities that they may be in either are not licensing, or they are granting 50 licenses when they really need 5,000 licenses. It's just a really, really challenging time. And as much as California preaches that they are for the small farm or for the little guy to make it, it is simply not the case. And that's why we're here. We're trying to fight back for the small farm, the small craft grow in California to stay alive. But we know firsthand that the regulations are not set up for the small group to survive. With that said, it still can be done. And we're here to fight that fight, and we're still standing. We're gonna keep fighting forward. And hopefully, we're here to stay.
We do what we do because we really care about the style of agriculture that we do. We really want to push the envelope of no-till cultivation. We absolutely believe that it's the future of growing, not just in cannabis, but in food and livestock as well. And we really want to push that envelope to be a better company, a more sustainable company, not only in the way we grow, but in our packaging as well. Thank you all so much for watching. We wouldn't be here without you watching, without you supporting our products, without you supporting our brand and going to buy all of our products. You can find us online at notillkings.com. It'll give you all the shops that we're in. Please call the shops ahead of time. We have like a where to find us map, store locator, if you will. It's got all the directions and the numbers of the shops that we're in. Sometimes we sell out really quick, so we always advise you to call the shop beforehand to see if the certain strain you want is in stock. A lot of times Weed Maps or their online shop isn't up to date. If you want any of our merch, we also offer that at notillkingsclothing.com, and we'll ship that out ASAP as well. So really, thank you all so much for all the support. Thank you for letting us be here as long as we have. It's truly been a blessing to be in this industry. We really do love the plant. We're here to stay and fight for the plant, fight for the small farms. And thank you all so much.